So we'll go ahead and get started. We're almost, we're just about 50 people, and I'm sure we'll have some others join. I'm Kristen Walker-Painemia. I'm chair of CEESP, and I want to thank you all for joining us today. As I said, I really wish we could all be together in person. We normally would have had a half day or 3/4 day meeting with presentation from members, discussion and dialogue. Obviously, COVID has impeded that, but we wanted to make sure that we at least were able to connect with members prior to the WCC starting up so that we can update you on where things are in the commission and then where they're headed and get some inputs from you all. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I think everyone is a pro these days at engaging on Zoom, but please do keep your microphone off, at least if you're not speaking. If you can, keep your camera on just so that we can see folks. And any comments you have, you can write in the chat box, but we will have some time for discussion along the way. And then we are having translation in Spanish, French, and English. So please choose your channel on the globe so that you can have your translation as well there. All right, everybody ready? All right, thanks, Adrian. I saw the thumbs up, I appreciate it. As I said, as you're coming online, drop your name in the chat, let people know who you are and where you're from and perhaps what your specialty is. This is a way that we can begin to connect with each other here in this format, and then we can continue to do that into the future. So what we want to do today is, over this next 2 hours, is share with you a little bit the CEESP journey over the last, now coming on 5 years as opposed to 4. And I started off with a picture of our steering committee and members in the Republic of Georgia. And in the before times when we could travel, we often would organize our steering committee meetings in conjunction with CEESP members and IUCN members to really make those connections. And we had a lovely engagement with the membership in Georgia, understanding the work that they're doing, the challenges they face, and how we can support. So just to set the stage a little bit for the work that we're doing. I'm going to pass to Eben just to talk a little bit about our membership within the commission. And I think, as you all know, our commission really focuses on the social part of IUCN. And our role is, like the other commissions, to generate knowledge and to help push the union in new directions and set the agenda for how we look at the protection of nature. But I'm going to jump in and pass the word to Eben, just so she can give you a little bit of sort of facts and figures about our membership and communications. Eben?
Yes, hello everybody. Great to see everybody. The membership works so that—
hold on one second, Eben. I know you introduced yourself there, but I want to make sure that you're introduced fully, because you often see emails coming from Eben. She is the CEESP Executive Officer. She's the one who makes sure all of your articles get out, how to communicate and those things. And she does an amazing job at doing this, but I just want to make sure that her role is fully appreciated in trying to engage and support members in different ways. So sorry, Eben, but I felt you needed a little bit better introduction there. So go ahead.
Very kind. Thank you so much. I should have introduced myself. Yes, so for those who might have been members in a previous quadrennium, as in before 2016, you know how it works. At the end of every Congress, people have to decide if they want to rejoin the different commissions. So this will happen as well after the World Conservation Congress. Nobody's able to join as a member right now, but once the Congress is over, you will get the option. You will see an email from the IUCN Secretariat inviting you to rejoin as a member. So we sort of start at 0 again after the Congress. And then people can opt in who were already members before. And then the membership opens up again to new members who have either let their membership lapse or never been members before. So you may want to be on the lookout for that email from IUCN inviting you to rejoin CEESP or any of the other commissions that you may be interested in or a member of already. So at this point, I think we were at about, well, maybe 600 members 5 years ago after the last Congress in Honolulu in 2016. We are now at about just over 1,300 CEESP members. And there was a time period where it was the systems were being changed. There's a lot of system improvement happening within the IUCN to make it easier to fill out an application and easier for us to also approve members. So that it was shut down for a while, but that is running very well now. So hopefully we will see most of you when all that sort of happens again after the Congress. So if we could move to the next slide, please. There we go. So this is just to give you a sense of the membership, the CEESP membership by IUCN region. And that's been sort of divided into, as you can see, Asia, Central and West Africa, Eastern and Southern Africa, and Eastern Europe and Central Asia. We really hope to get more membership in Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Good membership in Latin America, Caribbean, Europe, North America, Oceania, and so on. We also have a category called Young Professionals, and we're certainly making a lot of efforts to engage young professionals, which in the case of IUCN is anyone 35 and younger. A little bit just more detail there. The gender falls with about 47% female, 43% female and 57% male. The age categories are also detailed in that figure on the right, with most being between 36 and 55. Next slide, please. So we have, let's see, we have 15 different CEESP groups and themes, plus we have 2 knowledge baskets, which are the Natural Resource Governance Framework and the People in Nature groups, also known as knowledge baskets. And those 2 groups are the ones that have the highest membership, the most interest. And that is followed by, as you can see here, we have a theme that is on governance, equity, and rights. And 30% of CEESP members have joined this. You can join up to 3 different themes or groups. For the next group with the most interest is the theme on human well-being and sustainable livelihoods, with about 28% of CEESP members. And then the next one down is the sustainable use and livelihoods group. And that is an intercommission group. So that is sort of a group that is both sits within the CEESP and the Species Survival Commission. And then the remaining groups, which is about another 12 groups, they occupy anywhere from 3 to 18% each of the membership. And we have 2 very new groups. One is on green criminology, and the other one is called People and the Ocean. So those are the newest groups, and therefore have not that many members at this time. Just another point we wanted to mention is that the IUCN Secretariat has focused very much the last 2-3 years on improving the application process, making it streamlined and very secure from a data point of view. And the next thing they're going to focus on after the Congress is what they promised us, is to improve the tools with which all the chairs can communicate with the members of the different groups. So you may have noticed a decrease in communication in certain groups. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the data privacy laws have made it difficult. We used to have email distribution lists for each theme and group, but we're no longer allowed to use them or update them rather because of not being able to access email address and such for privacy reasons. So this means that in the last sort of 2 years, anybody who is a chair of a theme or a group needs to sign in to the IUCN portal and then go navigate to their group, and then they need to send a message to all their members via this web interface. And that it's a little bit not intuitive, and that has certainly cut down a great deal on the communication from certain groups. So we really hope that in the next sort of 6 to 12 months, we will get better tools with which all the chairs can communicate with all the members. So hopefully that is what's going to be something we can look forward to relatively soon. Next slide, please. Hopefully you have been receiving our newsletter. We aim to send one out about 3 times a year. The last one was in June this year. And over the sort of last 4 or 5 years, we have published on the CEESP website and also noted in the newsletter about 240 to 250 articles that have been submitted by you, the membership, and by the chairs on all different subject matters to do with CEESP and that relates to the various themes. So when we get an article by a CEESP member, we not only post it on our CEESP website, we also take a snippet of it and we share it on the CEESP Facebook page. And we do this because there are many people who have joined the Facebook group. And from there, it's very easy to share the information and to share the article. So please keep that in mind. If you are not yet a member of the CEESP Facebook group, I highly recommend that you join to not only see these articles, but also to see other things that members who of that group are sharing that are of interest to all of us. So in total, we've published about 12 newsletters. We are hoping still to do one before the World Conservation Congress. Hopefully that'll happen, just to highlight some of the events that are going to be taking place that are related specifically to the CEESP Commission interests. On social media, I already mentioned the CEESP Facebook pages. There's 2 of them. One is public, one is not. But we also, again, hope that that is something that you will want to join to share your work and see the work of others. If you need any help finding it, don't hesitate to reach out to me. We have a Twitter account that is slowly growing. We will be using that for more coming up with the Congress. And then the most recent addition is a CEESP YouTube channel where we have been uploading different videos and meeting recordings. So that is another avenue to stay in touch with what is going on in the Commission. Mentioning the YouTube channel also just leads to mentioning a lot of work that was done last year when the pandemic hit. There was an initiative within the Commission and with especially with the chairs to create some virtual dialogues around some of the themes, to talk about the challenges faced by people dealing with the pandemic and a lot of the issues around it. So we have 6 or 7 virtual dialogues that that are very worth listening to. You can find them on the CEESP website. And the 2 images you see here are actual infographics that were made of 2 of these dialogues. And they capture, sort of in a snapshot, some of the messages, the challenges, the calls to action that were sort of synthesized from these dialogues that were like 1 to 2 hours each. So not many people have time to listen to a recording, but you can get a lot of the information by finding these infographics. And again, they are available on the CEESP website. If you go to our resources page, there's a link to a dedicated virtual dialogue page where you will find a list of all the recordings and all these infographics. So it took a lot of effort, and they were very, very successful. So we really hope that as many people as possible will be able to enjoy the different topics that were discussed. So,
great, thanks, Eben.
That's it for me now.
Thanks, Eben. And these recommendations have continue to be pulled into the work of CEESP and how we're trying to influence the work of IUCN overall. I also want to highlight that we also, as you can see, there's been a momentum to sort of build a better identity for the commission itself over time. We had Aro Hamid with us last night, the former chair of CEESP, and she began to push the communications issue during her terms, especially her last term, and we just continue to build on that. So we went through a process to update and redesign the logo, with a nod to our former logo and incorporating those elements, but we wanted to sort of bring new life into the logo itself and reflect of those things. So hopefully we have been giving it sort of a soft launch and embedding it on our upcoming publications, but we'll have a full debut within the context of the Congress. So hopefully it's agreeable to everyone. And Nathan Bennett, who is our chair of the specialist group on people and oceans, likes to say that he is the one, because of his new specialist group, influenced having the fish in our logo. So we have a more holistic approach to those things. So I hope you all do like the logo. It's just giving us a little bit new life and a little bit more way to how we can look at the identity. Thanks for the comments on the logo. Graphically, it's a lot easier to use as well. So it makes our life a lot easier. So we just wanted to give you a little bit of a snapshot of the picture of sort of where the membership is, what we're doing in terms of communication. And now I really want to sort of talk about what we accomplished in the last almost 5 years now. And I do want to highlight that we have prepared a report to the Members Assembly. And it's a pretty extensive report. So we're capturing a snapshot of issues here, fairly extensive, but not everything. So I'm sure there'll be questions that you all have, but I just want to highlight that we're doing that. And as we go through this presentation, I will be calling on some of our chairs and some of the participants in the work that we have been doing. So first off, I think we've had a large emphasis in engaging not only with CEESP members, but with IUCN member organizations, participating in national and regional meetings when we could, convening meetings when we have engagements happening in a particular country, contributing to the organization of workshops, and beginning to have that dialogue on those needs. So I just want to highlight that we've had that broader engagement overall. Through our regional vice chairs, we have really worked to work across regions and increase membership and participation and set priorities. And I want to give the floor to Meher, who's our regional vice chair for Asia, just to give a couple of comments about, from her perspective, about the regional vice chair for Asia role. I think I just caught her off guard. She was moving around.
No, thank you, Eben. Thank you, Kristen. Can you see me? Because I'm using my phone today.
Yes, we can see you. We can see you.
Okay, as long as you can see me, because I can't, I'm not on the laptop today, I'm using my phone, but thank you. I will go through the Asia region to quickly basically say that our membership has increased in the last 1 year. We have now got 253 CEESP members in Asia in 17 countries. And it is a growing membership. It's a diverse membership, and it's a very involved and engaged membership. And it's been a pleasure to work with the members across the Asia region. And I've tried to maintain contact regularly with the membership, engaging them in CEESP activities, in the newsletter, in the various other forums and forums that that we're having through CEESP. We also have focal points, CEESP focal points in the 10 IUCN country offices in the region. That is very useful because we can work with the focal points to reach out to the membership. We have one specific focal point in the ARO, which is the Asia Regional Office, whom I also communicate with and share information on CEESP. In terms of greater engagement for the future, I would say that we need to increase our communication and engagement because we need a listserv for our members in Asia, in the Asia region. Unlike the other specialist groups which do have listservs, in this particular region, we have to reach out to members individually. So it would be very useful if we could have that, and if we could have a web page or a special page on the CEESP website for members' interaction. However, having said that, interaction with the national and the regional committees over the last 4 years has also been very fulfilling. The Pakistan National Committee, I've attended all the meetings, both in Karachi and Islamabad. I've also attended meetings across the region for like the Regional Conservation Forum that was held last year in Islamabad. And at each of these forums, wherever there are CEESP members in that particular city, I have tried to reach out to them and invite them and bring them into the discussions of the IUCN as well as the Commission. So these are some of the things that I could speak to right now. There are a few more, but I think, as I said before, the experience has been rewarding and challenging, and engagement with members has brought out our diversity of the region, the wide experience and expertise that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Meher. And last night we were joined by several other regional vice chairs, and I think there has been a focus to sort of reach out to CEESP members, and also national committee members. And as with any region, there's a balance of how that has happened, and some has been more positive and negative, and these are things that we're still taking into the account as we look in the next 4 years. But the engagements have been done in various ways, and we hope to continue to improve that as we move forward. I also want to highlight that after the last Congress, IUCN hasn't had a focal program on rights and governance. It was spread across many different pieces. It had advisors. And after the Congress, we worked very closely with the Secretariat to form what is now called the Global Rights and Governance Program for IUCN. And that is our main focal point within the Secretariat. However, we work across IUCN. We work with World Heritage, we work with protected areas, but I want to highlight the home that we have in terms of very connected work with the Rights and Governance Program that really has this focus on natural resource governance, gender equity, and Indigenous peoples. And I want to highlight Jenny Springer, who is the director of that program, and she was also formerly on the steering committee of CEESP, but has been an avid CEESP member. But I wanted to highlight some of the staff, Kate Owen and Jackie Siles, who worked on gender, to which Meher works very closely with. Anita Sek, who was brought in 2 years ago to really be a focal point as an officer working with Indigenous members of IUCN. She herself is Mayan from Belize, an Indigenous woman. And really, it's the first time they brought that type of position into a global secretariat level. And then Jamie, who is also working on communication. So I just wanted to acknowledge the important role and the relationship we have with the Global Rights and Governance Program. And in this last quadrennium, it's sort of a consolidation of a lot of this work that IUCN has. That said, I also want to talk about the membership. As you know, in 2016, the new membership category for Indigenous people organizations was approved. And I think that was really important, and the momentum has really been built around the Indigenous members of IUCN. There are now 24 Indigenous organizations of IUCN as members. And there was a question last night, was it just people transferring their membership? But it's actually new. There were very few who transferred over as Indigenous Peoples Organization members, and it has grown. It's noted that the majority are in the Americas, and they're working to, through their own strategy, to bring on more members in Asia and Africa. I also want to highlight that through that process, we work very closely with the Secretariat just to provide that support as they're navigating IUCN. And as we know, those of you who've been engaged with IUCN, many of us still try to understand it after many years. But they also were able to get a counselor appointed in this last quadrennium. So there's been an Indigenous counselor on the council. But what they have put forth in the upcoming Congress is a motion to have an elected counselor position. And should that be endorsed by the members at this Congress, then they will be able to have an officially elected position. They have a strategy that they're pushing forward to looking at increased participation. How do we really consolidate the global policy engagement of IUCN and the voice of Indigenous peoples? A focus on land and territory rights. And then looking at the cultural heritage component, and also a focus on strengthening Indigenous organizations. So with the Secretariat and the Commission, we have been helping to support that their led process where it is needed along the way. I also want to highlight some other work that we've been doing with our theme on human well-being and sustainable livelihoods. And Neil, I believe Neil Dawson, the chair of the theme, is on. I wanted to give you a couple of words. I have 2 slides for you.
Great, thanks, Kristen. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Grand. Okay. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Neil. I'm the chair of the theme on human well-being and sustainable livelihoods, and have been for about 4 years now. I should start by thanking Francisco Rosado Mai, who started off as a co-chair with me on the theme and was a huge help in helping me navigate and get to know IUCN and the CEESP systems and get to grips with things, and who set some goals for our theme together. I recognize a lot of names here from people who are members of the theme, so it's nice to see you here today. And yeah, Francisco is still contributing quite a lot to CEESP, even though he stood down as co-chair a couple of years ago. The main thing we've been focused on through the theme is on a project looking at the growing number of interdisciplinary studies linking the well-being of Indigenous peoples and local communities to conservation, and particularly exploring what those studies can tell us about what type and quality of conservation governance works for both people and nature. So we're trying to consolidate that growing amount of evidence out there. So we set up a working group of about 20 members of the theme to look at this, and started conducting a kind of detailed review of this literature. And a big thanks to Kristen and CEESP for providing some funding to get that project started as well. As some of you will know, these kind of review studies can take quite a long time. We scoured through the literature and sifted through 3,000 plus studies to identify a set, eventually, of 169 studies providing evidence for the review, studies that looked in detail at conservation governance and linked the social and ecological outcomes, so we could draw some lessons from. And I'm pleased to say that this has eventually culminated in a paper that's going to be published next week, just before the World Conservation Congress starts, which is nice timing. The key message coming through that paper is that when Indigenous peoples and local communities play a central role in conservation, for example, when resource access and decision-making occur in accordance with local customary systems, when those local institutions are recognized and respected, then positive conservation and well-being outcomes are far more likely to occur compared with interventions that are externally controlled by states, private companies, and NGOs. And I think this is a message that lots of studies are bringing out at the minute. So it kind of adds to that wave of evidence, I think, coming through, and that hopefully will play a role in the World Conservation Congress. And I think links well to the reimagining conservation theme that Kristen's been talking about too. Of course, we're not saying that that message is easy. It's not a simple message that you just need to decentralize control to local communities and everything will be simple and conservation will automatically be better. It's much more complex, and we bring that out in the paper as well. And we're now taking that forward through a set of case studies from around the world that we're using to try to illustrate examples of innovative conservation governance and show the details behind some transformations and how they are leading to improved outcomes for people and for conservation through that. So I look forward to sharing that study next week, and we'll be grateful if anyone takes a look, any comments, and also help us share that message a little. It would be great to discuss that, and I'll share that through the themes listserv as well, and hopefully we'll have some discussion with the theme on that. So we've been fairly preoccupied with that project over the last couple of years, and perhaps some of you who are members will notice we haven't communicated a great deal as an overall group, but hoping that can be improved, and then some of you can contribute to revised aims for the next 4 years after the World Conservation Congress. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if there's any questions, particularly about that study or the theme.
We're going to hold that. We're going to go through these and go through that, but I would suggest you check the comments, Neil. There's a few comments for you in the chat. And if you could look at them there, and then once we finish some of these, we'll stop. We'll have a pause for some questions in general. Okay, Neil?
Great, thank you.
Thanks so much, Neil. And again, we're crossing our fingers so that this gets out next week. And in many sense, it isn't new information that many of us don't know, but it's how do we position this and how do we continue to push the evidence base around this information. So I want to thank Neil and the team that worked on that. And we had several members with us last night as well. I also want to talk about, and I know that we have Tony Charles on the call. We engaged in a partnership with the Communities Conservation and Livelihoods Network, CCRN. They were looking at putting together their meeting, and we came together at a meeting of the minds to bring the work of the commission together and the work of the CCRN together that culminated in the conference in Halifax, where we had about 500 participants from around the globe, bringing in CEESP and CCRN members, and some of them are in both, but it also brought some new actors to the table, and really some of these research partnerships and the outcomes we're seeing come to fruition as part of those conversations. We also took the opportunity to celebrate IUCN's 70th anniversary there. We held a meeting with the Canadian members. The Indigenous members of IUCN convened meetings with with First Nations in Canada. And we had a really great support from all the commissions. And then I think finally, and I'll let Tony speak in a second, this culminated again with the launching of the Communities and Livelihoods book in February of 2021. But I wanted to give a few minutes to Tony Charles just to comment on our partnership, and it will continue to evolve over time. Tony?
Well, thank you, Kristen. Always appreciate the publicity for the conference and the book. The partnership's been wonderful. Of course, a 2018 conference doesn't just happen in 2018. We've been working together for quite a long time now, and the book came out in February of this year, as it's noted there. The book's freely available through IUCN and through the Community Conservation Research Network. I'll put the links in for people in a moment in the chat, but I just want to emphasize that the conference, some people on the call may have been at the conference. The results, the outcomes of the conference have all been assembled, and they're on a website that CEESP and CCRN pulled together in thematic ways with all the sessions being listed there. So if you'd like to have a look at some resources on communities, conservation, and livelihoods, we've got that assembled from the conference, and then there's the book as well, and a few other resources. So yeah, we're hoping certainly to continue on with that partnership, and thanks for the opportunity, Kristen.
Great, thanks, Tony. As always, a pleasure. So I'm going to continue to transition, we've talked about sort of supporting our Indigenous members. We have focused on how do we continue to provide more evidence-based to transform global thinking. We've talked about convening the networks that are working on these issues, but I also want to now direct our focus to the issue of environmental defenders, another key tenet of the work that the Commission has been doing over the last couple of years. And I want to hand this over to Ame Ramos, Deputy Chair of CEESP, and she's straddling the CBD meetings at the moment. So Ame, are you there?
Hola, everyone. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Ame.
Oh, it's great to see so many familiar names. I wish we could all see each other in person. I would like to just share a little bit about the work we've been doing on environmental defenders at CEESP. As you know, this is a really important topic, not just for the conservation community, but really for humanity as a whole. I think we are all defenders in some way, and that's why we're here, and that unites us. But there are other defenders out there on the front lines who are risking their lives every day, being murdered, criminalized, and persecuted. And as CEESP, we thought it was important that we bring visibility to these issues within the conservation community. So to do that, we put together a 3-volume series. I'm very happy to see some of our authors here today. I see Peter's online. So thanks, Peter. We put together a series of contributions in a 3-volume series. And what's really unique in my view about this volume is that it doesn't just include academic pieces, practitioner pieces, but it really includes the voice, poems, art, stories, videos of others from the front lines, telling the story in their own words. And I think it's really powerful and moving to read this. Our hope is that this publication will inspire action from others with beyond defenders, from the conservation community, the human rights community, from each and every one of us to support the work that we're doing. So these 3-volume series will be launched at WCC. We'll be launching them in 3 different events, which we can share more information about. What I chose to do is in the very last volume, we launched at the Members Assembly, and it really is a call to action. The last volume focuses on what the conservation can do to promote greater protection for defenders. It's something we hope everyone will respond to. This is also a beginning to launch the work that we will continue to do in the next 4 years around defenders. So if anyone on the call is interested in being involved, please write to us, get involved. We have a lot of work on these issues and a lot of action that we need to take. So yes, very happy to be here. Very happy.
Great, Ame. I think we might have lost her connection at the moment, but I do want to highlight the great work that Ame has done. She's been an excellent deputy chair and really leading some new vision and connection within the commission here. I also just want to highlight a little bit further on the environmental defenders that we do have a motion at Congress that will be discussed and a high-level dialogue. And I also want to highlight the work that is already being done in Latin America. There was a motion, a resolution put forth that is already a motion regarding access to information, and it's really focusing on the ISCASU. And that group in many of the members in conjunction with commissions have already started a process to understand and provide tools related to the implementation of ISCASU. And they've carried out a 4-week set of webinars that we have posted on the CEESP YouTube page, but it's really to how do you actually go from doing a motion to the implementation. And I want to pass the baton to Peter Larson, who is working with us as well on the environmental defenders. So we'll give him a few points to talk about as well. Peter?
Thank you so much, Kristen and Amy, also for this and a good overview of steps being taken, and indeed also just the opportunity to briefly say hello to everyone, both old and new faces here in CEESP. I mean, this whole work on environmental defenders, of course, is so significant. And I think a key thing for us with the Geneva Roadmap group has been to try to better connect the environmental and the human rights communities. We've had a series of discussions and meetings in Geneva, also in connection with the Human Rights Council and the resolution adopted in that respect. to basically point out, on the one hand, the key vulnerabilities faced in our conservation community in this respect, but also the kinds of action that are taking place. So there is the high-level panel, indeed, that Kristen mentioned. We also have a series of other workshops taking place. There's a campus session as well on environmental defenders and protection taking place on the 7th in the morning. So there are a number of events that connect to this. And as Kristen really insisted upon, there is, of course, a resolution being tabled, which we are very confident and hopeful will be adopted. And the roadmap process a while back, just before COVID really hit the fan here, also helped perhaps shape some of these ideas that are in there. So we're hopeful that the Congress will adopt this resolution and create a stronger basis for union-wide action, both in terms of what the Secretariat can do, what national committees can do and members can do, and the commissions, of course. No, so there's a lot of momentum there also to really get together. I think it's important that CEESP maintains the work and leadership in this respect, as well as connecting with other commissions and the Secretariat on this. So really, if there are members that are interested in taking this work forward, definitely write to Eben and so on about this, to make sure that if sort of a community of practice is established during the Congress in Marseille, that we use that momentum there to take this forward and speed fast track work in that respect. Yeah, let me stop there. But
thanks, Peter. Much appreciated. So from defenders, we're going to jump to the broader issues of governance. And I'm going to pass to Emmanuel to talk about the work that we've been doing on natural resource governance. And this is a co-led effort between CEESP and the Global Rights and Governance Program. And I think Jenny Springer was going to join, but I know that, as you can imagine, is wrapped up in lots of Congress pieces. So if she joins, we'll give her a few minutes. But Emmanuel is also a co-chair who's been involved since the early stages, but has really jumped in to be a co-chair with us in the last year and a half, I believe. I've lost track of time. But Emmanuel, please, the floor is yours to talk about the work.
Thank you, Christine. Actually, I've been involved from the very start, but as Christine said, I've gotten much more involved in the last 2 years. The NRGF was started out in 2013, and a number of us that were in a research program called the Responsive Forest Governance Initiative were a part of it when it started out in 2013. And since then, we've developed a couple of policy papers, conceptual papers, pilots. At the start, we were focused on answering the question, what are the main principles that would say are universal with respect to managing natural resources? And we did very broad-based review of governance, and we came out with 10 principles, and those 10 principles of each of them have about 4 or 5 criteria. So in total, there are about 52 criteria. Those criteria would then lead to indicators for those who would want to use the framework for assessment on the ground. One of the innovative things we've also done with the NRGF is that it can also be used for what we refer to as correspondence analysis. So this is about the NRGF being a complementary governance framework to other governance frameworks that are out there, where those governance frameworks can use the NRGF like a mirror to say, okay, how much does our own framework is in congruence or not with the NRGF? And for us, that would be some kind of a learning exercise that would benefit us in the NRGF and the other complementary approaches, so that together we are all advancing natural resource governance worldwide. This work that we've done has brought us to this place where in 2021, we are now ready and confident to launch the NRGF. And this will be happening at the World Conservation Congress. We have sessions, learning sessions on September 4th and on September 6th. I think those sessions are full now because the World Conservation Congress limited us to just 50 participants for the online sessions. But we have sessions and we're going to be launching the NRGF at the WCC. Don't worry, you'll get to see the materials that we've put up and all of that. One of the other things we're also doing is that we have now created an NRGF community of practice. In fact, about 2 weeks ago, we held first inaugural meeting for the NRGF community of practice. A small meeting for a small group of persons that have been interested in this, but we have a larger list of CEESP members that are interested in the NRGF, and we are going to be reaching out to that larger list of CEESP members that are interested in the NRGF sometime just after Congress. You probably get an email from us on what we are doing at Congress, and then after Congress, we'll reach out to you for the broader meeting for the community of practice that will be happening after Congress so that we can together build our work plan for 2022. So this is where we are at present with the NRGF. And so far there's been huge interest in what we're doing. And together we will advance natural resource governance around the world. This is the plan, the hope, and the intended outcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Emmanuel, and thanks for your leadership. And I think everyone will be looking forward to how we continue to move forward this community of practice. So from governance, we have taken a dive into a set of issues of looking at environmental change and migration and what impacts of climate, conflict, and environmental degradation are happening on people and movement. And I want to pass the word to our chair for the theme on environmental peace building to Galeo Sanz. He's still there. Galeo?
Yes. Hi. This was a little bit on the cuff. I wasn't expecting it, but happy to give you a quick rundown of this, everyone. Greetings and welcome. Yes, so we've been working hard on this environmental change and migration report, really looking at all the dimensions of migration, including human as well as other species. And what we've done with the theme on environment and peace is bring together a really powerful task force to look at this question of migration. And we have been collaborating with some amazing people in some really amazing organizations, from the International Organization for Migration to the Wilson Center in the USA, to the World Bank, and many others. So this we found has been a very powerful catalyst for bringing, or CEESP has been a powerful catalyst for bringing these different organizations together to address this topic that is increasingly becoming important for all of us, and in particular for conservation going forward as we try and secure many of the gains that we've had through our work over the years. So we are looking forward to launching this report in the first quarter of next year. We are hosting a session at the Congress that will hopefully also be a form of workshop to bring additional insights into this report. We've just gone through our peer review process, and we're working with some amazing graphics people to summarize the overall outcomes and challenges that the question of migration and environmental change poses for all of us. So really exciting. It's been a brilliant journey for us as a team, Elaine and myself, my co-chair at the theme on environment and peace. And although this wasn't what we were planning to put most of our work and time into, it's been a very stimulating and a very important, I think, intersection for all the dimensions of what CEESP is engaged with. So I look forward to sharing this report with everyone when we are done with it, and I hope it inspires really reimagined action as far as conservation goes on the ground. So thank you.
Thanks, Galileo. Much appreciated, and I appreciate the efforts of you and Elaine and the leadership of this task force. We had several members with us last night as well, and they contributed to the conversation. Another key tenet of the work that the Commission has done has really been based in culture, spirituality, and religion, and people or individuals' connection with nature. And there has been a number of initiatives that we've been working on, and we had some of our colleagues from Hawaii with us last night, and Kevin Chang, who leads the theme specifically, just talk about sort of bringing more people and those perspectives under the theme and the conversation. And I wanted to highlight the work that our colleagues in Hawaii did with the special edition of Nature and Sustainability, looking at agricultural production and climate change in Hawaii and bringing that voice together. And we have Lisa, who is one of our chair for Respect, to see if she wanted to add a few words as well for the work that she's been doing under this umbrella.
Thank you, Kristen. Like Galileo, I didn't dress for the occasion. Anyway, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to see you all here. Well, Respect has basically means religions, spirituality, environmental conservation, and climate justice. And I think that this, as we move forward and as you see what CEESP is preparing for the next years, I think it really comes to the heart of this reimagining what conservation is or what conservation could be. And I think that more and more as a community, we're seeing that this breakup of humanity with our relationships with the earth has really been the most profound reason for the chaos that we see. And any way of healing those relationships with nature, which is basically living a spiritual life, if you like, is at the heart of the solutions. So yeah, Respect basically does three things. We try to move ahead with the interfaith dialogue. We provide a platform for exchange and united action, where people from different faiths and spiritualities can come together, share what they're doing, and hopefully work together in an interspiritual way, all united. And we also try to continue this exploration of this wonderful nexus of conservation and spirituality, and try to contribute to this really important field of inquiry and help ensure that we hold this space within IUCN, that IUCN doesn't lose sight of these important things. What I would like to say is that next Saturday, the 4th, so the first high-level dialogue of the Congress, so for those of you who are joining in either in person or virtually, will be a wonderful dialogue of spiritual leaders. And I see here that Fazlun, maybe he can give us a wave, Fazlun Khalid, who will be on that panel, is with us today. So it's great to see you here, with other most wonderful people like Mathieu Ricard, like Sadhvi Bhagavati, His Eminence Cardinal Turkson will be there, Archbishop Thomas Schermacher, and a wonderful shaman from Siberia, Olga Letikaitsonka. So hopefully you'll be able to join us there, where we'll touch on the deepest elements of spirituality and conservation. So anyone who's interested in this field of work, please get in touch. We're hoping to launch a very nice project in the coming 4 years on sacred species and how those can really be vectors for change in conservation. So do get in touch. Great to see everybody. Thanks, Kristen.
Thanks, Lisa. Much appreciated. And thanks for stepping in. Just maybe one more key tenet of the work, and I know you've heard a lot about this. This has been on the discussions within the IUCN context is the question of youth and intergenerational engagement. All of the commissions supported the development of a report to look at youth and intergenerational engagement at a much more higher level. And this, I don't think Melanie's on the line at the moment. Melanie Zerber, who helped lead the team to look at some of these issues and make recommendations to IUCN. So one is that collectively, all of the commissions supported the youth summit that was extremely successful, that took place online in April, that had about 15 or 16,000 participants from youth from around the world, and pushing that voice and that call for change more succinctly into the IUCN circle and making sure it's more at the center of that circle. This is also coupled with this report about how IUCN should be able to action this as part of the union itself. So this work will continue. All of the commissions have had work with youth, but it will continue to be amplified, and we will be working with the Secretariat to formalize that as well. There will be a youth summit at the Congress, and I'll speak more about that in a little while, but I just wanted to highlight that work and the role of the commission in that. Just moving forward, I do want to highlight that there already have been several motions lots of motions have been, and resolutions have been made motions, and there's already task force moving to start to bring these things together. We're reforming the palm oil task force, recognizing that we need a stronger focus on the social aspects and issues and human rights issues around palm oil. As I mentioned before, we are collaborating with the members in Latin America on Motion 51, but I changed it. It's not 61, it's 51. And then a task force has been established on Resolution 72 that's looking at the importance for the conservation of nature, of removing barriers to rights-based voluntary family planning. So I just want to highlight that, and you know, there will be more underway, and we'll be calling on members to engage more and more. And I just want to share that we have a number of guidelines and publications that have been coming out and will continue to come out. And as highlighted, we've put policy matters into a three-volume. So we're doing three policy matters at once. And has been highlighted by our other speakers and chairs that we are moving forward on a set of publications. I also want to highlight Nathan Bennett, who is our chair for People and Oceans. Due to the time, he's not on the call, but we've just had a recent publication that was shared that came out August 15th, looking at ocean equity and the importance of the social dimensions of marine conservation. So I do suggest that you look at that, but I think he has really been pushing the issue of oceans and how to rethink things. And this specialist group is beginning to grow more and more momentum within the commission. I see it doing that into the future as well. And then just a little bit of a roadmap into the next quadrennium is really how do we align and but also challenge the IUCN program. We're going to regularize the policy matters publications, trying to get one out a year, an increased focus on justice, equity, and inclusion. And we didn't highlight all of the work that has been done around economics, but we have been doing a lot around natural capital and livelihoods. But we really do want to have a larger focus on sort of finance and regenerative finance, looking at how to support communities. And then we're having lots of discussions with the Species Survival Commission in particular, but also the other commissions on looking at knowledge systems and how to integrate that and how to bring these together. And then continue to push social dimensions. And then just as we continue to increase a greater focus on oceans and climate. I also just want to project a little bit into the future. Beyond the UNFCCC, beyond the CBD meetings, but Impact 5 is coming up in 2022. And we just wanted to highlight that the call for proposals, our session starts are due by September 20th, but I think it's a huge opportunity for members of CEESP to engage, or perhaps if sessions that you put forth for WCC you may have canceled or changed just because of the situation we're in. So Nathan Bennett is happy to help and support those efforts. But it really does align well with the work that the commission is doing. And then I want to just highlight another opportunity as well for you all. in that we have been collaborating with the Commission on Education and Communications and supported them in their efforts to develop a nature storybook toolkit that can be used by practitioners and others around the globe, and putting together stories in the work that you do. And this has called upon 1,000 volunteer hours from 20 some CEC members, but it'll teach you how to put together these stories in a very simple manner. And providing those tools and resources to do that, and a participant guide, and just thinking about that and how you can pull those pieces together. They are offering, there will be a video competition. So the idea is that we're encouraging all commission members to engage where they can, and there's some links that we've provided there, and we'll drop them into the chat as well. And I think someone already did it for me, so thank you, or some of the other pieces there, but just an opportunity for you all to engage, and again, to create the larger net of the IUCN family and the work of the commissions together. So I just want to stop here, because we've given you a lot of information about lots of things the commission has been doing, and it's probably not the tip of the iceberg, but I just wanted to give the opportunity if anyone wants to share, or I know there's been questions and information shared in the chat, but if anyone has any questions, we can take a couple minutes to answer questions. So do raise your hand. And I'd ask if someone is off mute that you mute yourself. I hear some noise in the background. So I'd ask if you can mute yourself. I can't find the person, but if we can. So if anyone has any questions or comments. Reflections of any of the steering committee members that are here?
Good morning, this is Daniel. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Daniel.
Yeah, this has been a really great kind of overview of what's going on, and I'm so impressed with all the incredible work. One thing I did hear, and being new on the commission, one thing I did hear is some reach outs for involvement. And I'm definitely interested in helping with some of the work in the groups. So just trying to figure out how best to connect and make sure that if there's a way to help or a way to get involved, that I find the right path and jump in, because this is excellent, great work.
Great, Daniel. Noted and mentioned her. And I think one of the main issues, as even highlighted, is we're really trying to help with the communication issue and garner. So this is one of the reasons we want to make sure we had this meeting, so we can continue to bring more voices into that. Simone.
Yeah, hi, thanks, and really impressive, all the work done. I had a quick question and yeah, maybe a bit more substantive question. The quick question is, I saw the report on migration that sounded super interesting, and I was just wondering if it also looked at the impacts of out-migration and yeah, how it affects communities and community conservation initiatives, community governance of their own areas. Whether that was all addressed in the report. In any case, I would look forward to reading it. And the other thing is, I mean, looking at all the impressive work that's just been promoted, I wonder what way we could feed this maybe better into the current negotiations of the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. I mean, several of us, like Ama, Vivienne, are very much involved in these negotiations, actually just jumping over today from the negotiations. And I realized that a lot of the discussion today, for example, were about spatial planning and governance. And, you know, you really feel like it would be so wonderful if all this knowledge that has been gathered through CEESP could be fed in a very targeted way into this process, because I think a lot of the negotiators are actually really, really struggling with this process. I wonder whether this has been discussed already, if there's any ideas about how we could achieve this in a very practical way, taking into account we probably have some 6 months more to influence the negotiations.
Thank you, Simone. I'll answer your last question first. I think you've made a very good point. I think with Ame, we've been trying to figure that out, but perhaps a call with you, Ame, And Vivian, just to look at some tactical approaches would be good, because I think the more we have, and I think, you know, one of the main issues is everyone is stretched so thin, and including you all who are straddling these meetings at all hours of the night, but perhaps we can have a conversation just to think about. And we have a couple other elements that I will present that might give us a good channel for pushing these things forward as well. And then let me see if Galileo wanted to answer the second question you had about the migration report.
Simone, yes, thank you. I just sent you a direct message, but indeed, please get involved if you can with the migration report. And as far as the question you had regarding connecting with communities, we've looked at quite a lot of that, and especially the Indigenous community side of things. A lot of those aspects fall in the solutions section that we're looking at, and really the need that we have for across the board, connecting more across territories of life as a solution for conservation generally, biodiversity as well, but in particular in managing movement of different kinds of species and human species in particular.
And maybe just a comment, I mean, this is going to be a body of work going into the future with the commission. So I see it, and we've talked about it evolving into various forms as well. Any other questions or comments from folks before I close this segment? I don't see any hands up, but if someone wants to speak, you can unmute yourself. If not, I'll move to the next element. We'll have some time at the end as well. Okay. I want to move on to some CEESP awards at Congress. Obviously, you know, CEESP only started doing awards in the last quadrennium at the impetus of Aroha. And we wanted to just share a little bit of the awardees that we are highlighting. We did have two on, actually we do have another one on the call today, but we just wanted to honor them here, even though that this will be formally announced at Congress, and we've sort of kept it a surprise to the awardees. But I think first of all, we had Aroha on the call last night, and given the dedication that she has had with IUCN, not only as chair of CEESP for 8 years, but as a counselor for an additional 8 years, we have made her an honorary chair of the commission. So we're pleased to do that. She continues to be a great supporter of the commission. She continues to engage. She's been a great mentor to me. But I just want to highlight and recognize her on that. And she will be honorary chair of the commission, and often brought in for advice as we continue to move forward. And I think it's important to note that, you know, she had pushed the Indigenous Peoples Organization membership category in her tenure at IUCN. And she will be one of the keynote speakers at the Indigenous Summit that will take place on September 3rd. And I want to highlight someone else who I know is on this call, and I wanted to make sure he was on this call, is Alberto Padilla. Alberto, can you let us see your camera? Can you let us see you? Ooh. Oops. Hopefully he's listening. Alberto. He's often quite shy, but we wanted to give the award for the CEESP Agent of Change to Alberto Padilla, who is the director of the IUCN Honduras office. And we decided to give him this award because he has... Hola. Hola. Hola, Alberto. We wanted to honor Alberto for his work that he has done as a member of the IUCN Secretariat, but in his support, not only of the broader work he does in Honduras, but, and as an environmental defender, I see that, but in his support of Indigenous peoples in the Mesoamerican region. And we consulted with our IPO members in the region, and they were all supportive. Alberto has been with IUCN over 16 years, has been dedicated to supporting the efforts. He is often a quiet force in the work that he does. And he is a great colleague and an admired friend of the commission. And I just wanted to honor him as well in this session. Alberto, I know I've caught you by surprise, because it was a surprise, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to say something.
Sí, bueno, Muchísimas gracias, Kristen, realmente, y a todos los miembros de la comisión. De verdad es una tremenda sorpresa recibir este reconocimiento. Nosotros estamos conscientes de la importancia que realiza la comisión, de cómo poder avanzar en la integración de los asuntos sociales, derechos humanos, en los esfuerzos de conservación. Y creo que la labor de la Secretaría en alguna medida está inspirada en muchos de los productos de conocimiento que genera la comisión. Y de verdad que yo me siento, por supuesto, soy parte de la Secretaría, pero me siento miembro de la comisión y bueno, hemos estado contribuyendo en la medida de nuestras posibilidades, conscientes y comprometidos de que necesitamos seguir profundizando, sobre todo el impulso del enfoque de derechos en la conservación. Y ahí estamos y vamos a seguir y esperamos seguir trabajando y también participando más activamente en la labor de la comisión. De verdad, 1.000.000 de gracias por este reconocimiento.
Great, Alberto. I know we caught you by surprise, and this obviously will be formally announced at the members' assembly, but given the fact that all of the CEESP membership and not everyone will be there, I wanted to take the opportunity to announce these awards in our commission meeting. So Alberto, I will follow up with you directly, but congratulations, and I'm always happy to watch your work and the support you have. And then our last award at Congress is the Conservation Practitioner Award, and it goes to Jessica Campese, who is on the call, or was on the call. She is not going to be a surprise because she did hear about her award last night in the meeting. And Jessica has been a member of the commission since 2005. She has been involved with countless publications and guidance documents for IUCN. She has worked tirelessly on the NRGF. And we wanted to honor her and her dedication and countless hours of volunteer work for the commission as well. So Jessica, thanks again. Are you still here, Jessica? I know she popped up.
Thank you. No, I am. Thank you so much. And it's all been a huge collaborative effort with so many people that I just, but I really appreciate this and all of the work that so many have put in. And I'm sorry for not being here earlier in the meeting, as we all are juggling too many things right now, but thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. And we have already spoken last night, but I just want to give a congratulations to her and to her efforts. And then next, I want to transition to another seed that many of our steering committers have been planting is the discussion around reimagining conservation. The CEESP Steering Committee, along with several CEESP members, commission members, secretariat members, and other experts, are convened in April to really talk about a way forward, reflecting on the current state of the world and where we are and what we need to do to move forward. We recognize that we have done a lot of excellent work in conservation, but there's a lot more that has to happen. And we really need to think, and I think COVID has really taught us that we can't continue the status quo. And we sort of went through a process that really looks at what are some of the issues and challenges that we face, and how do we begin to rethink and think about what we need to do a little bit different? How do we look at a better balance in the world that we're in right now? We have lots of great successes, but we also still continue to have challenges. We just here in the United States the other day, we're looking at the issues of flooding in communities due to increased rain. We know that there was logging and illegal logging prior to COVID, but regulations have been loosened during COVID due to restrictions of people's movement. We look at the impacts of mining, and how do we really think about it and begin to step outside of the box? How do we look at the boxes that we're living in or working in, whether it's the conservation community, the development community, And how do we begin to build these efforts and think of how do we paint a new picture, and how do we begin to vision a world and take that childlike approach and listen to the youth that are calling us and begging us to change things and move things forward and make our planet at the center of it. If we didn't imagine going to space, we would not have got there, and it takes trial and error. So what we really are focusing on now as we move forward and at Congress will be to launch a campaign to reimagine conservation. And we've purposely created a logo that was sort of abstract, that allows us to think about things in a different way. And it really is positioning us to look at how do we build a movement of not only our community, but others. How do we make sure that it's people-centered, that it has cultural diversity, that it's union-wide, that we step out of those boxes and push the envelope on what we're doing. And also recognize that maybe some of the things we're doing now isn't the right solution and we need to think differently. But the idea is that this will be a tenet of the work of the commission over the next 4 years, and we will be framing the work that we do around this. But how do we bring others along? And I think we have learned from the Nature for All campaign that CEC had launched and connecting people with nature more, but now we want to connect across our communities. We've recognized as well that with COVID, we're connected virtually, but we're disconnected in many ways with nature and understanding that relationship. So we're framing a campaign to be kicked off at Congress and really looking at the time is now and how we move forward. And we really want to open up that to listening, to understanding the perspectives of various people and understanding those local solutions and local challenges. We want to be able to discuss. We want to be able to discuss the past history of conservation and what the future should be of protecting the planet. We also need to imagine of how we need to change things and how we need to make it different and how we really need to take action. We also can utilize this in how we have different conversations about key topics. And this is just a sampling, like how do we reimagine the issues around justice? How do we reimagine philanthropy or funding? We know many of the challenges that we get with respect to getting resources to communities is the barriers around funding. Leadership, making sure that we have a diversity of voices in that leadership and the solutions, and that everyone has a seat at the table. And then how do we think about policy? So Simone, as you said, bringing in all of this work that the commission is doing and to help policymakers think it through. But others said, how do we reimagine the work that we do on oceans? So the idea is to be able to take this in a series of discussion and work that can begin to push the envelope around that. We are preparing a video to be launched at the Congress that it's very abstract in the way we're looking at it. Normally most of these initiatives, we always have our species and our trees and our panda bears and our people, but this one will be a very abstract and bringing the voices and showing how we can change and trying to force us to get out of our boxes and really challenging our community, at least with the opportunity of this Congress, to reimagine and how we bring these things together. We have started to get some partners on board, so we welcome any of you who with organizations want to come on to that. We are working with the Indigenous members of IUCN to bring them on as partners to help lead some of this process. But the idea is we'll catalyze this as a 1.0 version. At the Congress, we will have a pavilion that is called Reimagining Conservation, and it will work on the tenets of this listen, discuss, imagine, and act, and bring together some challenging discussions, but also seek solutions. The CEESP event, and I'll speak more to that at Congress, and it's a hybrid event, will also focus on reimagine. And we'll bring in some of the work of CEESP, but also bring in other actors to talk about it. And then finally, there will be a dialogue at the Members' Assembly, strategic discussion on the culture of conservation, where we will bring in several voices, but also frame it around the reimagining. So I just wanted to hear, what are your suggestions for reimagining, or what do you think of this as we go forward? So I want to leave a little bit of option for you to comment or make suggestions or hear some reflections from you all. Any comments? I've seen some nice feedback in the thing, but any comments or thoughts?
This is Daniel and from Barcelona. One thought, that I've had with lots of experience in conservation and this whole idea of reimagining is that observing the impact of the pandemic on communities and then their ability to be able to do things. And somehow some of it is psychology of pandemics, some of it is actual the health of pandemics, but this can really hinder vulnerable communities in their work for conservation. So maybe that's a piece that I've been thinking about.
Great, thank you. And Swaima?
Thanks. Kristen, I've been thinking about the intergenerational equity and how we can bring in our youth and our children into that space. Probably they could paint the canvas for us rather than we paint it for them. That's the way I would look at it, because it's the future that they would want us to leave them with. Yeah. So probably if you could look at it from that angle as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And that is part of this. Part of this discussion that we'll have a huge voice of youth in that. And I think actually I really like how you articulated that, painting the canvas as well. So thank you. David.
I think this is a great initiative and congratulations for launching it. We are a progressively urban species, and I think that we really do need to do a lot more thinking about over-horizon consumption. Urban consumers don't produce the things that they consume. They get it from over the horizon. And the problem is they don't know the impacts of those consumption choices. They've no idea where the grapes come from that they eat. They've no idea where the table comes from that they bought. And that's a huge challenge for the 21st century. If urban consumers are completely cut off from the environmental impacts of their consumption decisions, we are in deep, deep trouble. Thanks.
Great points, David. Mónica. Mónica Acuña.
Hola, un saludo. Sí, hola, un saludo y gracias por el espacio. Coincido mucho con la participante anterior. Yo creo que tenemos que reconocer todavía, reflexionar todavía más en todos esos integrantes de un amplio paisaje donde estamos todos totalmente intercomunicados, interconectados, y donde esta realidad de sociedades cada vez más urbanas, para bien y para mal, tenemos que buscar integrarlas y tenemos que hacer llegar ese mensaje todavía más fuerte a estas sociedades urbanas. Creo también en la importancia de repensar también lo que es los factores que inciden sobre la conservación y sobre el éxito de la conservación, y tal vez más bien sobre la degradación de la conservación visto desde esta perspectiva de amplio paisaje, lo cual incluye, por supuesto, a las industrias, a las empresas, a todos estos sectores que definitivamente impactan la conservación y que de una u otra forma siguen manteniéndose como fuera del movimiento. Es un reto gigantesco, es un reto enorme, pero en gran medida son esos impactos los que hay que buscar revertir o disminuir. Y esos son algunos de los ejemplos. Yo me alegra mucho esta iniciativa. Creo que el repensarlo como desde cero es muy importante de cara a este nuevo milenio y a la nueva realidad, y también a las oportunidades que ha brindado la pandemia para palpar mejor esa conexión que todos en este gran paisaje tenemos como actores. Gracias.
Gracias, Mónica, por tu reflexión muy importante. Sorry, I just switched languages on you. Vivian.
Sí, gracias. En el camino, por eso no puedo poner muy bien mi cámara, pero quisiera reflexionar desde Costa Rica que la pandemia afectó seriamente donde habíamos puesto todos los huevos en la canasta, es decir, en el turismo. y aquellas comunidades que han mantenido su lucha por la defensa de los derechos humanos, su lucha por su identidad cultural, han sido las comunidades más resilientes y capaces de enfrentar el tema de la seguridad alimentaria en sus comunidades. Me parece que este elemento que fortalece la idea de que la justicia y la equidad ya no es solo para los temas genéticos, sino tiene que ser algo más amplio que aborde toda la biodiversidad y los recursos de los cuales viven estas comunidades, es importante. Y su vínculo a aquellos aspectos culturales que los fortalecen y les permiten un acceso digno a esos recursos de los cuales han vivido y con los cuales han tenido una relación de largo plazo. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Vivian. Gabriela.
Sí, bueno, primero quería decir que me gusta muchísimo el concepto que eligieron de reimaginar la conservación, porque da esperanza, por lo menos a mí me da esperanza que todavía tenemos la posibilidad de modificar algo del futuro y empodera. Lo único que no me cierra del todo es el lugar de la filantropía, porque si tenemos la posibilidad de reimaginar un futuro y de reimaginar la conservación, a mí me gustaría reimaginar un futuro con más justicia social. Y para mí, filantropía me da idea de asistencialismo. Entonces, entiendo que la filantropía la mencionaste como una forma de conseguir financiamiento, pero tal vez esto puede estar subsumido entonces dentro de funding, dentro del financiamiento, pero bueno, preferiría pensar un futuro con más empatía, con más visión de los comunes y con menos necesidad de filantropía. Gracias.
Thank you, Gabriela. And there's been a big debate on that. None of these are just the ones that we've thrown out are just topics and they may be consolidated. And part of it is to discuss it and to have that. So I think your points are very well and we will see how this evolves. I'm going to go to Jose Luis. Jose Luis, you have your hand up.
Hola a todos, buenos días. Sí,
Estás cortando un poco, José Luis.
Hola.
Now we can hear you, yeah.
Ok, voy a moverme. Gracias por organizar esta reunión y escuchar participaciones tan importantes y relevantes para todo lo que estamos haciendo actualmente. También de reimaginar la conservación va dirigida a las estrategias de conservación, sobre todo porque no es un trabajo únicamente académico, sino que se encuentran involucrados bastantes actores sociales, incluidos la juventud, como ya vimos ahorita, la parte académica, los grupos indígenas dedicados a la conservación y también la población que no está tan involucrada en la conservación. Y al menos en la experiencia, la conservación se vea como un objetivo también de la educación hacia las personas, sobre todo aquellas que no están involucradas en temas de conservación, sobre todo porque
ya te perdimos, José Luis. We lost you, José Luis.
El desconocer las estrategias que se pueden desarrollar a través de la la señal ha estado muy mala todos estos días, una disculpa.
That's okay. But please send
a ver, ¿ahí me escuchan todos?
Yes, now, but also
Hello.
please send your points to me
Hola.
as well. Se
Hola.
corta
Sí,
mucho.
Hola.
We can hear you very well.
Muy bien, perfecto. Ok, gracias. Saludos a todos.
Gracias. Gretchen. Gretchen Walters? There you go.
Hi. Yes, thanks, Kristen. I love this initiative, so thank you very much. I just wanted to point out that contrary to what David was saying about the urban issues, I think there's a whole part of reimagining conservation. Conservation is not typically a very inclusive movement, as we all know, and it's often represented by a few people. And I know we all want to change that, but I think we need to think quite practically about who actually is part of this conversation versus who should be. And so it's often not the urban people that are included. And there have been commentaries recently and a lot of by Chris Sandbrook and others about these, Ashish Kotari, who are saying we're a bunch of urban people who are thinking about conservation often, but where are the other voices? And I think we need to take that into consideration somehow. Thanks.
Yes. Thanks, Gretchen. And I think this is exactly why we want to have this conversation. Simone, sorry, I left you to the end just to let other voices speak first. Go ahead, Simone.
No, sorry, I lost connection a little while. My connection is a bit unstable. No, very much in line with what Gabriella said. I totally agree with her perspectives and also what Gretchen just mentions. I think a very interesting dimension of this is indeed the governance dimension, to look more profoundly at the role of power imbalances in governance structures and how financial flows actually influence that. I mean, we all know that funding comes with power, but still I feel there's a certain level of naivety in a lot of, publications you hear about, community governance or community participation, that indeed doesn't realize the more inherent power imbalances that you have between wealthy urban elites and in general, politically and economically powerful organizations, and on the other hand, the people in the most biodiversity rich areas, indigenous and non-indigenous, who are almost per definition politically and economically marginalized. And that whole power play, also has a lot of dimension. As soon as they set a global goal, for example, or a global target, like they're doing now in the CBD, that will immediately create tensions with the people on the ground. I mean, how much say do they have actually in setting those global targets? And it will create a push for the elites, for the powerful global elites, to impose, certain measures to the detriment of the interests and on the ground and the rights on the ground. So that kind of dimension, I think it would be really interesting with all the work CEESP has been doing on this, to deepen that out and to really feed this into very naive concepts like, for example, partnerships. I mean, what is a partnership between a mouse and an elephant? Between Jeff Bezos and a small indigenous community on the ground. Is that a partnership? Those questions I think would be really interesting to work with as CEESP community.
Great, thanks, Simone. I think all of the comments that you have evoked here are the kinds of discussions that we want to see happen and how to evolve that change. And I see that Ian Davidson has put in the theme of decolonization, and that is part of this. So I've just given you the broad brush strokes, but this is really the 1.0 version to be launched of this discussion. And what we want to be doing in the coming months is to be able to get input such as these, not only from the commission, but from others in this conversation, and really begin to push this momentum, but challenge not only us, but other communities to have these types of discussions and to push that forward. So just, this is the start. And the word reimagine has been used a lot, but we really want to put traction around it and how to transform those pieces. So I'm going to sort of leave it here, but I think we want to be able to continue this, and we really would love you all to be on board and to engage in this momentum and partnership as members of CEESP, but also as your organization, and help to take the lead on some of these conversations itself as well. So thanks for those inputs. And I think just the comments here highlight exactly the thinking behind some of these pieces as well. So I'm going to transition one more time as we're coming to sort of the rounding the end of this meeting, and just talk a little bit about how to join the CEESP journey in Marseille and online. So I've sort of tried to chunk this up into 3 different parts, and I know we've packed a lot in this meeting, but just want to give you a little bit of an overview. And even did send around a schedule yesterday, I believe, to the all commission list, just so that you have an idea of the events going on. So first, I do want to highlight that the World Summit on Indigenous Peoples and Nature will be on September 3rd, and it will be online. The Indigenous members, were concerned about pushing something in person. They would decided to have it online to make sure that this event was much more inclusive. So this will be online, and if you are registered for the Congress itself, then you are able to join and listen into the Indigenous Summit as well. So we have been working and supporting that process with the Indigenous members of IUCN under their leadership and providing that backstopping support. As I mentioned before, there will be the Youth Summit, and it's a follow-up to the larger meeting, and that will only be 2 hours. It will be on September 3rd, and it is hybrid. They will have some youth in person and online, and it's really to push the outcomes that they push forward and making sure that that is included in part of the IUCN process. And again, we will be bringing that is part of looking at the reimagining piece as well. As noted, there will be a physical space there called Reimagine, and we're doing this in partnership with several other organizations, and really have brought in as many as we can who are looking to do events and to challenge some of these conversations. And it's sort of wrapped around this listen, discuss, imagine, and act approach. And there will be 35 events over 6 days. Right now, we're still working out if we can stream some things. We might be doing it in an unofficial manner, but we'll let you know how that happens. But this is a pavilion. It's not a sort of the direct forum event itself. And then I just wanted to give some highlights of some of the CEESP events that just for your calendars. And again, these are in the email that Eben sent out, but we will have it. The CEESP event itself will be Reimagine Conservation. And we will highlight some of the work of CEESP, but bring in other voices. And then, as noted by Lisa, we'll have the high-level event on spirituality and nature. There's work on natural capital accounting. And Nick Connor and others who are working on that are involved. And as highlighted by Ame, we will be launching the policy matters on environmental defenders at 3 different instances throughout the Congress. And part of that will be in my report to the Members Assembly. We noted the launch of the Natural Resource Governance Framework. And again, there's many sessions that are already out there and much more in the information that Eben has sent out. Just to highlight some key motions, these are not all, but there are still motions on the docket around 19. There's a discussion on the Climate Change Commission, on environmental defenders, on the doctrine of discovery, on Indigenous people's rights, and looking at how to transform the post-2020 agenda. So just if you're tracking those motions, or if you're involved in a member organization who is, just to highlight those. Some key presentations that will be in the Members Assembly, and I'm not clear, I don't think the members, unless you're a member, I don't think it will be projected, but I'm still not clear on that. There will be a presentation by the youth of their outcomes document during the Members Assembly. So again, it's getting that in there. There will be a CEESP report to the members, and that report is available online for you all to review if you want to dive deeper into the work of CEESP. And then, as I mentioned, there is a strategic discussion among the members on building a culture of conservation that will bring in many of the conversations we've just had. It will bring in the youth, and it will be sort of framed around reimagining as a tenet. And then just some key governance motions. I think one that's important for all of us, the role of commissions in national and regional committees, and those national regional committees refer to the members. Some national committees are very welcoming of individuals who are members of the commission to participate. Others are not, and it's sort of to help create clarity that the commissions can provide further information and support to national committees in there. There is the motion focusing on the establishment of an elected Indigenous counselor. And then there's others related to subnational governments and election of regional counselors, resident and dependent territories as well. So I just wanted to give a snapshot of some of those pieces. And then I just wanted to get an idea who, if any, are going physically to the Congress. I will be there because I'm kind of obligated. But I wanted to see if anyone can raise their hand just to let us know. I did see a message go through on the chat. I think it was Olga will be there in person, but if anyone else, Marion will be there. Anyone else? Gretchen will be there. Sylvie will be there. Great. Okay. Well, seek us out and come to the CEESP events, and hopefully we can have a broader conversation. And then for those of you who will be online or have events, please share it with us. Share your presentation, the dates and times, just so we know that we can try to make sure we pop in and hear what you're doing. And then also have a follow-up. What were the outcomes of the sessions that you were involved in as well? And that's it. We took you on a journey of sort of 4 years and looking towards the future. But I wanted to see if anyone wanted to have, I saw Monica raised her hand. Women in Power on September 5th. Monica, yes, great.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hello to everyone. I would like to ask for those of us who can't participate physically at Marseille, who will be participating virtually, will there be any opportunities of interaction where we may see each other and network in the same ways that we would personally at the conference?
In my understanding, Monica, the IUCN the platform that is being used, I don't think is facilitating that. But what I think we can do as a commission is to do some follow-up and allow some of those spaces to happen in the future, to have that networking option, and maybe do some breakout groups in another type of meeting that we can organize if that would be agreeable to folks, considering we will be operating in this type of context for some time to come. But I think that's a great suggestion, to be able to create some networking and some groups that can meet up as well.
Yes, because one of the big values of these congresses is that you get to see old familiar faces, you get to catch up, you get to network with one another and see what everyone's been doing or what the plans are. And a lot of spontaneous serendipitous connections come of these personal interactions.
Yes.
So it would be very interesting to have, maybe if it's possible, even in the course of the Congress, to have, I don't know, even informally, coffee shops or networks or hallways, you know, something that where we can see each other's faces, we could come in and we can interact dynamically with one another, maybe go off into private chat networks, but at least be able to see the people that are going to be there and connect again as close as possible to a physical presence. That would be very useful.
Great.
And would strengthen our cause as well.
We will explore that, Monica. And if we can't make it happen during the Congress, we will make it happen just after the Congress, and try to keep that as a constant momentum in that sense. Any other comments? Go ahead.
In that sense, could you capture as many participants as possible, not just from the commission, but as many of the general participants to join in that process? That would be very helpful.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Reflections? Frustrations? All right, well, if there's no further comments, I want to thank you all for your participation. I think we had around 70 some people at the beginning of the meeting, and we had about 50 last night. So in terms of a all commission meeting, I think this has been great, because I think we probably would have had a similar amount at the meeting itself. So I do appreciate everyone's participation in this, and appreciate, I've taken advantage of calling on folks who've been engaged in different processes. But anyone else, any other comments or suggestions? Great. Well, then I want to thank you all for your time and engagement. And I look forward to engaging you all more in the future. And I think, as Eben said, you know, please reach out to her and we will get you connected. And then remember, after the Congress, you'll get an email that will request you to continue your membership in the commission and bring others to the table. So just to remember that will happen after the Congress. And then we will grow the membership again, and we will bring in further engagement. But I want to thank you all for your efforts and engagement. And I look forward to engaging with you all, as do the chairs, the steering committee within the commission as well. So thank you very much. And I appreciate all of your time today. All right. We will share the slides. We can do that. We'll put it in a PDF for you. And then we do have a recording of the session that we will we'll have on the YouTube channel as well. And then, you know, we're trying to get out an update as well, right, as the Congress starts with information. It may be more of email format just because the Secretariat as well is stretched in getting out some newsletters, but we'll keep communicating those things out. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day or evening, depending on where you are in the world.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Great to see so many faces.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
And thanks to our translators. Sorry, guys. Thank you very much for the 2 days of translation. Hopefully the cadence was okay. Now you know everything you need to know about the commission. Or both, 2 commissions actually, because several of you participated in both commissions.
Yes, thank you very much to our interpreters.
Hey, is there a way we capture these comments that have been put in here that we can see them? Okay, there's a transcript, right?
Yes, there's a transcript.
There's a lot of.
Send it to you.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks
again, everybody.